I call to order the January 18th, 2023 regular meeting of the Oconee County Council. Let's begin with a moment of silence. Mr. David Rick, would you pray for us?
Yes, sir. Please pray with me if you'd like to. Dearest Father, thank you. Thank you for this day that you've made. Thank you that we woke up this day. It wasn't guaranteed. And help us to remember that we are so dependent on you for every breath of air that we have, certainly our daily bread, just your guidance in all ways. And you've been faithful to us, and I pray for that faithfulness to carry out through this meeting, that you'd bless council as they make decisions, staff as they help, the public as they're involved, and thank you for them turning out today to be involved. Pray you'd give us all your guidance, that this would be your meeting, governed by your love, kindness, and general order. Pray in your name. Amen.
Mr. Scott Crine, would you lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes for June 20th, 2023, regular meeting minutes.
Make a motion.
Motion, second. Any discussion or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor?
Votes 5-0.
Approval of minutes from June 23rd, 2023, special meeting minutes. Have a motion?
Make a motion.
Motion,
Second.
all right, any discussion or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor?
Votes 5-0.
All right, next we have county attorney comments, Mr. David Root.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Two matters. One, we did receive in a questionnaire for the Aeronautics Commission District 1. So Mr. Elliott will have the opportunity, if he so desires, to act on that at the end of the meeting. The second matter is for the first ordinance that's up for public hearing and third reading. As was announced previously, Ironman is Itron, which is a local company that's doing an expansion, so we wanted to name Itron. Of course, it's now formally the project of Ironman. But to give a little bit more color to it, Itron is a global industrial Internet of Things leader, and that's, I guess, as I looked it up, smartwatches and Fitbits and things of this nature that are within the Internet of Things. That innovates ways to utilize or to help utilities and cities manage energy, water, and it plans to expand its Oconee County operations with a capital expenditure of nearly $29 million and creation of 100 jobs. It's located in West Union, and they plan to expand the existing facility and establish a center of excellence for manufacturing operations in North America.
Mr. Root. Next we have county administrator comments, Ms. Amanda Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of council. I have one clarification statement in a previous council meeting. Mr. Hart, I believe it was in response to one of your questions regarding the age of our current grinder at the landfill. This was previously discussed in committee meeting just prior to this meeting. But in the council meeting, I told you guys, I believe that the grinder was 8 years old. It is in fact 15. I apologize for the error.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Brock. Up next, we have public comment session. To remind everyone, it's changed. Instead of 4 minutes, you now have 5 minutes. At the 4-minute mark, hold up the yellow sign. At the 5-minute mark, the red stop sign. Council members will refrain from getting into out and back discussion during that time. However, council members are free to reply and comment in the next session, which is council member comment.
First, we have Mr. Roger Norwood. My name's Roger Norwood from Westminster, and after talking to about 300 people since this current council came to, I decided that there were some concerns about the council. So these are not all mine, I've just put them in my words, but I am a father and a former foster parent, did that for almost 30 years, focused mostly on special needs kids, and I'm a proud adoptive father to a special needs daughter. Oconee County doesn't have a lot of services, which has always been disturbing to me because we spend a lot of money here, and I have to go to Greenville because there's not services for special needs here. And it's something that, you know, my dad, he got to meet some of the foster kids. He said it's concerning that Oconee County doesn't focus on its people. It focuses on details way too often, because he taught me that you do the right thing in the right way at the right cost with compassion and decency as your guide. And we don't always see that. And so what the information that people wanted me to let you know is they wanted me to remind y'all that tactics do matter, and it does speak to the people of Oconee County. It was disturbing when this council started that there was a month where this council didn't act because they waited on one man to return. It spoke to them that one man was more important than the county. Whether that was the intent is not, but that's what people think. Using that stunt move on the budget was concerning to people because they had heard 2 weeks of public comment and then a move. Nobody's saying there shouldn't have been things cut, but people didn't like the way the move was. And people are concerned that this body put cutting numbers over people that were already hurting. Inflation, I don't know how it's affected y'all, but I'm disabled, limited budget, and a lot more of my money goes to simple things like groceries and bills. And I've talked to a lot of county employees. If they're not talking to you, there's a lot of fear out there. But they shouldn't be, but they should tell you that they're hurting from that same inflation. And they felt slighted by the 3%. Whether y'all intended that or not, that's something that you have to address to the public. And there's over the last 3 years, I've been a very sick person. I'm still struggling. And I've been kind of shocked at how many people have took the time to come after me on Facebook because I have opinions, and I also accept people's opinions. I had to stop a lot of it. I've more than 30 times reported profiles to Facebook. But we in Oconee County have a third party, and whether a lot of those people that were playing fake profiles was in that third party or not, it sounded a lot like it. But people are thinking that this body is controlled by that third party. Whether it's true or not, that's something the county council needs to address, because people are thinking that they don't have a say anymore. And a lot of them can't wait till election time. So the real time that they'll speak, even if they're not speaking to you, is going to be then. Unless something changes, it's going to be a wake-up call. And when the sewer bomb was announced, I had a lot of people reach out by phone because I spend my time at home. I don't drive far. It was amazing. I drove here. They said, wait a minute. They just limited the employees to 3%, and they cut the budget, and now they want to put the county in debt for $25 million. It creates questions. I don't know if you can see that or not. I hope you do. That's what I'm here speaking on that, is people said that they want to know that you really care about people. Because the compassion and decency, whether you want a conservative minded, when I first came a conservative Republican, my dad was always a Democrat. And I had to lecture him about why I changed, and he had to lecture me what I needed to keep in front of me. And he said, if you don't keep compassion and decency as your guide, I don't care what party you're in. But you guys, if you want people to talk to you, the bully tactics like what I've experienced for the last 3 years need to stop. And people have tried to silence my opinion on things. I have strong opinions about domestic violence. I see it in the paper every week. I have strong opinions of things about the recent arrest of a sex trafficker and just down the street from here. I also am concerned because we don't have an abuse shelter anymore in Oconee County, when some people fought really hard where I used to work to get one. There are a lot of people hurting, special need kids. I'd do anything for those kids. And our schools are poorly equipped, and we can't seem to draw the right doctors to this place to make it where God's country can be a part of everybody. And the special needs kids need to be a part of this great environment. But we're not focused on those. Thank you.
Ms. Terry Ballman.
Good evening. My name is Terry Bauman. I live in Port Santorini. And I'm coming before you tonight to bring to light the concerns we have. There are 98 residents in Port Santorini, and they are all concerned at the fact that our water and sewer lines are 50 years old. The neighborhood is 50 years old. Our roads are in very bad shape. And so we want to get this as part of the public record. My first communication with all of you was in June, prior to speaking at the city council meeting, to let you know that our pipes are failing at an ever-increasing rate. We've had residents have raw sewage back up into their homes, and the roads are in very bad shape. Now, the county, I'll give a shout out to Kyle Reed because he's been awfully helpful for us from County Roads and Bridges, but he has told us that county has money to repave our roads, but they're not going to do that until the city replaces our water lines, which makes sense. The problem that we're having with the city is that for years we've just been told there's not any money for it, and that's the end of the discussion. So our problem is that the county owns our roads and the city owns our water lines and sewer lines. So we kind of fall into that redheaded stepchild category because nobody wants to take a hold of the problem because part of it isn't theirs. And when I hear that we don't have any money, and then I realize that millions of dollars in ARPA funds came into the county, and I know the county gave the city some money for water lines, and they still didn't address our issues. And the city council has known we've had a problem for several years. But none of that ARPA money found its way to Port Santorini. And yet the city and the county continue to approve new neighborhoods. And I don't think that's the wisest thing to do, because if the city is unable to maintain the pipes they currently own, how are they going to pay for repairs and improvements on all the new lines they're putting in? So I have a problem with that. I mean, I think the residents in Port Santorini want an answer from somebody, because we are very familiar with the problems that arise with 50-year-old water lines. We have only 1.5 miles of road in Port Santorini, and there are currently 105 patches in that road. And it used to be over 120, but as it continues to fail, larger patches have to go in. We've had 2 sinkholes in the neighborhood that have been fixed, and we're working on the 3rd. It's frustrating because we continue to be ignored. Now, how many times we've gone to the city about this, they just ignore us. And they will tell us, well, we can't do anything because the roads are owned by the county, as if that has anything to do with replacing our water lines. So we are respectfully requesting that between the city and the council, you find a way to work together so that you can either find the money to do what's necessary, or at least get the repairs and the replacement of the water lines on the calendar sooner rather than later. Now, I know I said I initially spoke to all of you on June 6th. Well, it's been since then that I had not heard anything in response from the city, even though I've spoken at the last 2 city council meetings, until today. So what I initially emailed you were the comments I was going to say until Mr. Mulder finally decided to actually acknowledge that I'm still talking and he's not answering. And he went on to tell me that currently the city has asked an engineer to look at, evaluate how we can replace the lines in a a responsible way. And after he gets that information, then he will have a contractor give them cost estimates. So for the last 2 months, that's what I heard today. So that's a little different than what I'd originally sent to you because I hadn't heard from him before today. We are just asking that, again, either find the money or work together and get it on the calendar. We've not demanded that this get done immediately. We know it's gonna take some time. We would just like the county and the city to pay attention and give us an answer. Thank you. And I would like to thank Mr. Durham and Mr. Mize, because since June, you two are the only ones that have bothered to respond to me, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Ms. Katie Wetzel,
Hi, my name is Katie Weitzel, and I'd like to address the council also about Port Santorini. I'm one of the longest living residents there. For 26 years we've been there. When we built our home, we built on a lot that's front and back. There's nothing on the back lot. We were told the road behind there was never finished, so there's no sewer and there's no water. But when we had things done, our property cleared, they hit water mains that were non-existent on any map. They hit telephone lines, which is not your responsibility, but also main trunk lines that ran through the neighborhood that were not on any map. So not only are our water lines and our sewer lines archaic, the map system is not right. I wonder how many other people in the county have this issue where they're breaking mains, wasting money because something isn't on the map, something wasn't done correctly. So we had that fixed, not at our expense, because we asked the lines to be marked and they weren't marked. Then we are the ones that had the raw sewage that backed up into our home. Ended up being quite the mess for about a year. Also, there was a water main break, and there have been many in front of our home. But the last one that I saw, they dug down 7 feet into the ground and removed concrete around the water line. They had embedded it in concrete to try to prevent it from breaking, because that's how bad our water lines are. So I also implore you, like Terry did, to try to figure out a way to work with the city. I'm sure you have a budget for repair. I'm sure that budget is huge. I don't understand how you can keep adding more neighborhoods with more water and more sewage that are going to add more struggles to the existing lines we already have in our county. Because I'm sure we're not the only ones suffering this. And not have money to repair what's already been laid as our foundation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Durham, I did want to bring to your attention that we have quite a few members of the community with us tonight. Just
Please raise your hand.
to let you know that they want you to hear them as well.
Thank you. That's all. Okay, next I have council member comment.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me, in past meetings, I was told by the chairman that the proposed salary study is to be completed by the fall of this year. In order to implement a completed salary study, budgeted dollars need to be available. I make a motion that the county administration put on the agenda for the next meeting, first reading of a budget amendment, increasing the budget by $2.5 million as a separate line item labeled salary study implementation. That's my motion.
I'll second for discussion.
Motion, second.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. If we're sincere and honest in our attempt to right the ship on salaries, then we should support this motion.
Ms. Brock, where are you at as far as being prepared for a budget amendment? So we talked about we need 3 readings by the end of September.
As of today, Mr. Chairman, I'd say we're approximately 80%. As you heard from Sheriff earlier, we are going department by department to make sure any and all contractual matters, even those that will renew at a later point during the year, are addressed so that only one budget amendment would be required.
Could you have a first reading, what date, Mr. Elliott?
The next meeting, which is a month away, the 19th?
Yeah, August 15th.
August 19th.
I believe I can, Mr. Chairman.
So I'll make a motion to amend your motion to include to have it on the the August meeting. But my motion is to remove the amount requirement because I know they are working on an amount and they've done a lot of work to this point. And I don't know what that is, but,
I second that.
okay. Any discussion on my amendment to the motion?
So you're saying the budget's not gonna be 60 million after the amendment?
I would say no.
Okay.
I do have a statement, Mr. Chairman, that
Yes.
may be a benefit.
Yes.
The staffing and wage study has gone out to bid. Tomorrow it's going out.
Okay.
We've worked very diligently to write the proposal for that.
And that'll help us long term.
Correct.
Does anybody else have?
Is that a 30-day bid process?
It's a 30-day on the street. Then we open them and then there's committee evaluation.
Late September, second.
I've got it for the October 3rd.
Yeah.
But if we do interviews, then that's gonna throw it out for us.
Yes, ma'am. Just a roundabout. Late October.
Roughly, if I had to guess, I guess, sir.
Stay inside. On the salary study, is the time frame that they are allotted to produce the study, what did that end up being?
It hasn't been, we're putting it out prior to date. That will all be determined when they come back to us.
Okay, so they, the ones that are sending it back will determine how long they think that will take.
Yes, sir. They send in their proposal. So the RFP process is a request for proposal. We did not put it out to bid because we didn't want to spec it. We don't have resources in-house to say how long it should take for them to study one position over another. And as we have discussed in several budget meetings and previous council meetings, positions similar in the county still need to be looked at individually because a tax clerk in one office may be very different as far as responsibilities go as a tax clerk in another office. We wanted to put it out to RFP with a listing of county positions so that they understood what the process was for each position.
Was the purpose of the salary study for the budget for 2024?
Right, so they provide us long-range planning
Okay,
for salaries.
okay. I was under the assumption originally it was for this budget year, and that's why I was confused originally that, how that could be done. So the salary study will be used for the 2024 budget
And beyond.
and beyond.
So the work that Ms. Brock's doing now is for whatever this number comes out to be.
Immediate needs. Any other? All right, so all in favor?
Hold it, excuse me. What are we voting on,
On
yours
the-
or
On the
Mr.?
amendment to the motion, which is gonna be, for the proposed amended budget to come forward next council meeting in August.
This is your motion. Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
So all in favor of the amendment to the motion?
Aye.
That was 5-0.
Okay, do we need any further discussion on the main motion? Okay, all in favor of the motion as amended?
That was 5-0.
Okay, we're still in council member comment. Does anybody have any other comments?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
We may have already covered this, but how are we on the pay scale for those less than 45?
That will be included in the August 15 amendment, Mr. Hart.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I did want to touch base on Fort Santorini, so, I did get those emails, and there was a response that I sent out, and I did speak to, City of Seneca about that. I've had a lot of friends that's lived in Fort Santorini over the years, and the issues have been ongoing. The interesting part about infrastructure is, part of what you're paying for utilities is supposed to be set aside for infrastructure repair. So as you can see, it's interesting that we have a lot of issues, not just at Fort Santorini, but across the board. We don't control the water lines, and we don't control the majority of what the sewer lines out there. But that's one thing that I have always definitely, in recent, have been talking to council about, setting aside money and setting aside even a millage, and I think it was discussed tonight about millage for fire equipment, strictly for maintenance and infrastructure repair, because when it's not, you get there is no money, and we're not gonna do anything, we're just gonna repair. A friend of mine stayed at my house for almost a week one time that lived in Port Santorini because of an issue regarding sewer and water. So I'm very well aware of that area there, so, and City of Seneca is as well. I hope that they'll do something sooner rather than later. Because paving the roads and, them just plowing them up is, gonna be a waste of taxpayers' money. So I think the number one thing is to continue to, send the emails out, continue to talk to council, because it is important to, fix those issues, you know, especially in that area. It's a growing area down through there. I think they've spent a lot of money on the main water lines running down through there, and not a lot of water lines on there, because it's not the only subdivision that's having issues down that road. But I did just want to, state that I had talked about it. I don't know what it's kind of like our hands are tied because we don't put in water lines. So it's a lot of issues on there. I'll try to continue to address it. I appreciate these council members continue to look at that as well. But, you know, that's one of probably about 500 subdivisions that are having similar issues. And we'll continue to, the infrastructure's not set aside. So, you know, my challenge is to learn from that as council and make sure y'all continue to set aside millage for infrastructure repair. As we get into this business, especially with Sewer South, there's gonna be a lot of cost associated with that. I don't wanna look at somebody that's got a industry down there and say, oh, we don't have money to do that, because you're gonna get a lot of unhappy people that are here right now, because that money should be set aside, and there should be a schedule to, replace and repair those lines. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Martin.
To the lady that Port Santorini, I got your email. I didn't respond to it, but I did forward it to the Seneca Journal.
Thank you.
Comments? Okay, so, guys, with the road and the water, Port Santorini, you're kind of in a, well, we talked about this up here before, we had similar issues. You're caught in a position to where you're on the municipal utility system, they set the rates, do the repairs, but you don't have a voice in their elections. So you're kind of caught in that no man's land. Although we don't do the water lines, we are your representation. And, you know, one thing we can do is to help facilitate something. So I'd like to ask Ms. Brock if you could reach out to Mr. Mulder, administrator, and let's start communicating, see where we can go. And if we need to bring it back to council or the roads committee, whatever you see fit. And then, I don't know if y'all done so or not, but reach out to the state delegation as well, because there's been a lot of money pouring through the state to municipalities. And maybe that's something y'all can do as well. And I'm not sure who your House member is in Bellingland, maybe Mr. Sandifer.
I have done that, back in June, and they have.
Chairman, she's come forward. She's gonna do those.
Would you come, what, does anybody have any objection to?
No, sir.
No.
All in favor?
I did do that in June and spoke with both the representative and the senator, and their advice to me was to talk to you guys and to talk to the city council, since we don't, like you said, we don't have a say in the city elections, but we depend on them to fix our utilities. But they said there was no more money available from them to do this. So I don't know where else to go for the money.
I have any other comments? All right, hearing none. We're moving to public hearing. Reminder, public hearing, you have unlimited time to speak. Has anybody signed up for public hearing? I'll read it, and if anybody wants to speak, please notify us. Ordinance 2023-12, an ordinance authorizing pursuant to Title 12, Chapter 44 of the Code of Laws of South Carolina 1976 as amended, the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of ad valorem taxes and special source revenue credit agreement by and between Oconee County, South Carolina, and Itron, formerly known as Project Ironman, acting for itself, one or more current or future affiliates, and other project companies, collectively company, providing for a fee in lieu of ad valorem tax incentive, providing for a special source revenue credit, developing a joint county industrial and business park between Oconee County and Pickens County, as to designate the property of the project as part of the park and other related matters. No one signed up to speak. Would anybody like to speak in the public hearing at this time? Hearing none, I close public hearing for ordinance 2023-12. Next, we have public hearing for ordinance 2023-13, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds in one or more series, tax exempt or taxable, in an amount not to exceed $25 million for the purpose of designing, acquiring, constructing, installing, equipping, or rehabilitating various capital projects, including wastewater improvements and related equipment, authorizing the county administrator to prescribe the form and details of the bonds, providing for the payment of the bonds and the disposition of the proceeds of the bonds, providing for borrowing in anticipation of the issuance of the bonds and other related matters. Has anyone signed up? No one signed up. Would anybody like to speak now? Mr. Markovich?
I hadn't planned on it, but I decided I needed to. For the record, I am Tom Markovich. Thank you, council. I fully support moving ahead with sewer and trying to extend it even to the greater capacity at highway, at the Interstate 85. That's a really important corridor. However, here is one of my concerns. County has no voice, no vote on sewer at all. And any of these people who are signing up for, if they decide they want to become a part of the sewer system down in that area, they don't have a voice and they won't have a vote unless something changes, unless there's some sort of a governance change. And that's a problem. That is a huge problem. It's a problem like right now in Port Santorini when these people have to, we call them a fee, but as far as I'm concerned, they're paying a tax and have no representation, period. And that's just wrong. Thank you.
Mr. Markovich? May close public hearing for ordinance 2023-13. Okay, next I have third reading of the following ordinances. Ordinance 2023-14, 12, as previously read, that's the fee in lieu of ad valorem tax and special source revenue credit agreement with Itron, formerly Project Ironman. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for the OEA, the good work y'all continue to do to encourage investment. And, again, thank you to the leadership at Itron and the great employees there that encourage them to, this is not the only choice that they had, and they chose us, and I appreciate that. That speaks volumes to our county and our employees. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Davis? Any comments?
I'd also like to thank Itron. They've been a good community member for many years, and we look for many years to come, and I believe this expansion is their commitment for many more years. I'd like to thank them for that.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. So I'd repeat that, it's great to recruit new industry. It's also great to continue to recruit the industry that you have here, and that they decide to stay and not just stay, but expand and grow their business here. So I'm greatly appreciative for the work Mr. Gilbert and his staff have done.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna show you my respect and thanks by a positive vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. All right, all in favor?
That is 5-0.
We have no second reading of ordinances. First reading on the following ordinances. Ordinance 2023-13, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds and one or more serious tax exempt or taxable in an amount not to exceed $25 million for the purpose of designing, acquiring, constructing, installing, equipping, or rehabilitating various capital projects, including wastewater improvements and related equipment. Authorizing the county administrator to prescribe the form and details of the bonds, provided for the payment of the bonds and the disposition of the proceeds of the bonds, provided for the borrowing and anticipation of the insurance of the bonds and other related matters. Have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
That is 5-0.
We have no readings of resolutions. All right, we have discussion regarding action items. First up is discussion and consideration of brush running options at the C&D landfill. Ms. Brock.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, thank you. This is first, they went to the last council meeting, and as you heard during the Public Safety and Health and Welfare Committee meeting just a little while ago, the grinder is still down. We anticipated receiving the part this week, got an email yesterday that it is yet gonna be another 2 weeks for the part to come in. But I'd like to request is council permission for us to go solicit, invitations for a third party to come grind and form a standby contract. So in the event that this does happen again, that we have the resources and availability of a grinder, because we are wasting valuable landfill space.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion?
Yes, but Ms. Brock, do we know estimate on if it's 2 or 3 weeks, how much that will cost us?
Well, we sent out some feelers, which is why I'm back asking for us to be able to solicit pricing coming back to us. They ranged anywhere from 3,000 to 10,000 per day. I think we did it in a formal and organized fashion. Say if we needed somebody to come in and just grind what we have on the ground, that would be one set of pricing that we would put out. And then if we needed someone to come in once every 2 weeks and grind what's on the ground. I just feel like with the grinder's age being 15, as I said earlier, I told y'all 7 or 8 before I believe, that in the lack of availability of parts, this may not be the first time we encounter this problem, and I'd like for us to just be able to address it rather than having to come back and request that every single time.
Even if it does come back online, trying to get it caught back up is not.
A lot of brush.
On top of that, we are violating DHEC too. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir. We are pretty close right now. I believe we got the number down enough. I'm looking back at Swain. We Yeah.
We're under compliance, we're just putting excess brush into the landfills, which is allowable.
It's just wasting valuable landfill space. And it's difficult for small patrons coming in, say if they have a small load of brush to go into that landfill unloading area up at the wall that we were talking about earlier. It just makes sense for us to be able to have someone on call or as needed.
Discussion? All right, all in favor?
That is 5-0.
Thank you all so much.
They discuss grant and performance agreements benefiting Ecosol Incorporated, Project EV PAC, Oconee, and authorize the county administrator and county council chair to execute and deliver the agreements on behalf of on behalf of Oconee County. Mr. Jamie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. You have before you two documents tonight. You have a grant agreement and you have a performance agreement. This is for BorgWarner's expansion of their facility in Seneca that was announced about 2 months ago, and which you approved the property tax incentives for. This is a $1 million grant that comes from the South Carolina Coordinating Council. This is similar to so many other grants that we've gotten over the years and other communities get, that act essentially as a pass-through for that grant. And we also are involved in making sure that the payments go from the Coordinating Council back to the county, and the county then cuts the check to the company. So what happens, this process, to make it kind of put in very simple terms, when work is completed that grant, that $1 million grant can be used for, the company then sends us the invoices, the receipts to show that the work's done, and the contractor's agreement that they have. We then forward that down to the South Carolina Coordinating Council. They review it and make sure it meets what is eligible. And if it is, they send a check back to the county, to the finance department, and then we cut that check to the company. So there is no county money involved in this. There is no county obligation. We do get involved in making sure that these procedures happen. But at the end of the day, there is no liability to us for this. Be happy to answer any questions you have about it.
Have any questions? All right, hearing none, I'll make a motion to authorize the county administrator and county council chair to execute and deliver the agreements on behalf of Oconee County.
I'll second it.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
That is 5-0.
Right, up next is discussion and consideration of lifting a portion of the hiring freeze to meet demands and address critical needs in Oconee County. I'll start. I trust everybody received the information in the email. I will say, and I mentioned this earlier, I would prefer to have the information sooner than the day before in the morning off. In future occurrences, probably if we don't have that data by the time we set the agenda, I won't put the item on the agenda, because to be fair to all council members. Ms. Brock, I trust you reviewed the data,
Yes, sir, I have.
and based on review of all the data, do you interpret the data to feel that it supports the hiring or the unfreezing of the positions?
For the specific departments that I sent, yes, sir.
And that is POT, solid waste,
Yes, sir.
look, I'm sorry.
I'm happy to read them off.
Yeah, will you read them off for me?
I'll start from the beginning and start over. Solid waste, building codes department, vehicle maintenance, roads and bridges department, PRT, and the Oconee County Library System. And the library was the one this morning. We just learned of the upcoming departure this morning. I apologize for the late distribution of that information.
So when I look at the data, I feel like it gives an incomplete picture of the departments. But I believe the time you study, when that does come out, it'll paint a clearer picture for everything. But however, Ms. Brock, you are the administrator, and you have a feel for on the ground, and you review the data. And if you recommend moving forward and lifting the hiring freeze for these departments, then I agree with going forward with that. Really, the main reason why we became involved is, the county, we know, is facing a retention problem and lack of ability to be able to fill positions as shown in the annual comprehensive financial reports. And we've yet to diagnose the root cause of that. Salary study, time use, that'll help with that. And that's really our role, is to give you the tools that you need to be successful. And so I'm glad to know that's went out to bid, and that process is moving forward. But with that said, I'll make a motion to lift the hiring freeze for POT, solid waste, building codes, roads and bridges, library, and did I miss one? I feel like I missed one.
Mechanic.
Yes, vehicle maintenance. And in this motion, I also want to include any that's outstanding, that's vacancies that occurred after June 6th, for any departments, for those to be able to be filled as well.
For any of these specific departments
Any-
or all departments?
All.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Second.
All right, motion second. Any further discussion?
Are any of those, like Mr. Durham said, that from June 6th back, are any of those part of those that you sent out?
Mr. Mize, if I may, I can give you,
Where I'm going is I just want to make sure we capture all of them.
five of them. Five of them are, yes, sir.
Okay.
Any further comments? All right, yes, Mr. Davis.
Well, I plan to vote to lift the hiring freeze, the initial portion of it. And the way it was done caused a lot of strife and for a lot of workers that, didn't really understand why, as nor did I. And I appreciate those that have continued to stick it out, continue to, put this county first, sometimes over yourself and your family. The longevity that's been put in here. Part of this kind of feels like a little control. And I hope that's not what it was. I hope this actually was, in all honesty, to do what's best for county employees. There wasn't a control portion of it, as it felt like it was to me. But I'll vote I want to lift the entire hiring freeze, but if we get a little bit's better than none. Thank you.
And as more data comes forward, and Ms. Brock, more recommendations, will address those as needed. But again, the motion for any departments that's not listed, people who left after the initial motion, those are, fill those.
We really appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Vote is 5-0.
Next is consideration of approval to place the Walhalla Middle School Resource Officer under the supervision of the sheriff as an employee of Oconee County. The sheriff's office will need $17,150 to pay for the remainder of the first year costs associated with this position. It is staff's recommendation we replace the Walhalla Middle School Resource Officer position with a sheriff's deputy. This will ensure continuity with policies, procedures, in training with all school resource officers in Oconee County. I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Motion. Second. Ms. Brock, would you just kind of speak to how this transfer came about, I guess?
And Sheriff Crenshaw is here as well, Mr. Chairman. So the Walhalla School Resource Officer has been a Walhalla Police Officer, and there was always not a written understanding that we can find since we implemented school resource officers. But as long as I have been here and as long as the sheriff has been sheriff, that once that officer went into retirement, that it would become a county SRO. He is the only city SRO in the SROs are reimbursed back by the school district. There are some upfront costs for equipment and necessary supplies for that officer. As Sheriff Crenshaw mentioned previously in the Public Safety Committee meeting, we were able to get a vehicle from the state surplus. I believe it was about $21,000 for this. The extra $17,000 will be necessary one-time supplies, such as vest, weapons, training, and those sorts of things, and laptop, computer, just normal things that an SRO would need to operate in a school. This is a reimbursable position, so there is no cost to the county for that. The school district does reimburse that cost back.
And it's the school district funds the payroll for the position.
Yes, sir.
Anybody have any comments, questions?
If I may add, Mr. Chairman, just as a notation, the $17,000 that's requested for this, we can allocate from a vacancy salary for that. There will be no additional funds needed outside of that.
All in favor?
That is 5-0.
The next, we have a request for council's consideration to support the Oconee County application for the South Carolina Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Undiscovered South Carolina Grant and approval to commit matching funds not to exceed $50,000 for the further development of the Foothills Farmstead, amount not to exceed $50,000, and the balance of funding needed for the grant will come from the Capital Projects Fund and will not exceed $50,000. The allocation of funds is contingent on the award from SCPRT Undiscovered South Carolina Grant. It is staff's recommendation that council support Undiscovered SC grant application for the purpose of further developing the Foothills Farmstead Historical Site and approve the commitment for matching funds if awarded. I have a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments?
Ms. Brock, how much have they gotten already out of the state for this?
Mr. Hart, I believe they received a $30,000 grant 2 years ago. If you'll give me 1 second, Nick, are you still here?
Yes.
Hi, Nick, are you still here?
Yes, I am.
Have y'all received more than $30,000?
No, it was, this is the second grant of the same grant
Okay,
application, but it was 50,000.
50, I'm sorry, Mr. Hart. It was 50,000, also from the same granting agency. Thank you, Nick.
Any other comments?
This, this project here, is it gonna be considered under the Parks and Recreation?
It's separate from PRT, as the Foothills Farmstead is a private or a nonprofit that has its own standalone board.
Is it gonna be sustainable once it's completed on its own?
I don't know if I can answer that, Mr. Mize, because it's sustainable on its own once it's completed.
Yes.
So if you came and visited it, you're gonna pay a fee to see it?
I'd like for it to be no part of it. Do I need to go on there?
It would be a good idea if you wouldn't mind.
Okay.
Thank you. This is Nick Gambrell. He is the director at the Foothills Farmstead.
So the plan is to not charge a fee and to have it free to everybody, especially school kids. Part of the initial grant in 2019 for the Undiscovered South Carolina is that they were going to require, when we closed out that grant, which was July 1st, just a couple of weeks ago, that we be open to the public and that we do charge an admission. So we have a meeting to check off with them next Tuesday to close out the previous grant for 2019. I'm gonna ask, but if anything, we're gonna charge $1 because we wanna make it free to everybody.
Ms. Brock, the capital projects fund, where's the administrator recommended?
I'm
Well,
sorry,
there's
I
a-
didn't.
The capital projects fund,
Yes, sir.
where's the recommended fiscal year fund that was adopted?
Correct, that is.
Was this included in that?
No, sir.
I guess one issue I have is that it came up, this is the first time reading it, but the grant is due by, what did I see, the 23rd of July?
Yes, sir.
Why are we just now seeing it so close to the deadline?
I don't know that I can answer that. I'm happy to provide an answer, or it looks like this
I get it.
signal says Mr. Gambrell can provide the answer.
All right, I confirmed today with Brittany Martin, who's not here, that's a typo. It's actually 5 days later. It's next Friday. The point of it being so late and coming to council was that we have been working diligently 7 days a week for the past several months to close out the previous one. This grant is open once a year, and so in order to apply for this, we had to close out and meet our deadline of July 1st, which we did. And so now, in 2019, we came to council and we were allowed to apply without the guarantee of the match. And then before they would approve it the following year, which was about 9 months later, they came back and asked that it come to council. So if I understand correctly, it's to avoid that overlap and delay in the future, is that if there is a match, that they would like to know if it's available before they approve or disapprove.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
This is the same scenario with Sewer South. You can't apply for a grant till that grant is finished or that project is finished. That's why we've run into that and several other ones. This project, I guess when it was originally, brought up, the whole intent on this project was to continue to, encourage farming and show people working farmsteads and stuff like that, which has been done. The attendance in the one that they did, that when they did their opening in July, had to be close to 100 people during that one specific time throughout the day. There was a lot of other ones. So I think the whole idea of this is, number one, to, continually put an emphasis on farming. I know some people say, oh, how's that gonna make somebody farm because they see an old farmstead? Well, same way with people coming up and getting fresh vegetables at one of the farmers market all across the county. The small things that we do continue to keep alive the history of Oconee County. We've done some stuff with the Cherokee Group, Mr. Lyle, appreciate what they do to keep our history alive with that as well. These are small things that I believe that we can continue to do across Oconee County, especially in this area that doesn't have a lot of tourism. The attendance there, I appreciate what they're doing. They've done a good job, volunteer work basis. It's not people getting paid to do it, and that's been huge. And, a small amount, in my opinion, of funding from the state. Hopefully there'll be some additional funding from the state to continue to add some things to there as well. But it's an agritourism industry. I know Nick can speak to that, how huge that is. That's the whole goal of doing all this stuff, to where it is free for the local people. But, if somebody wants to have a wedding out there, those things can come into play as well. But, I know there's been 50 to 60 people that's worked on this project together all across the county from multiple districts. That their intent is to continue to keep the heritage of Oconee alive. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I think this is super important to Oconee County. Our farms are probably our largest industry in Oconee County, and we've got to bring the school kids in and encourage them to want to go into farming. It's hard work, it's very rewarding, and we need farm. We need to produce our own food. I mean, we don't know what's gonna happen in the world tomorrow. China's controlling a lot of our food processing plants in the United States now. We've got to encourage our young people to go into farming, and I think this is a great way of doing it, bringing school kids in and showing them a way of life that they may not know about.
And this is not just a house. They've got I don't know how tall the corn is out there, like 14 feet tall out there. But it's just, you know, again, is a good thing. A lot of people don't have farming at home. They don't have any idea of what it's about. So I've been very encouraged by not just what they're doing, but other agritourism across the county is doing to encourage people to just have an idea of what it is and have a little bit more understanding when they're living beside a farm, what the expectations are. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Campbell, would you go into what your plans are? I know that you got a bathroom, 2 bathrooms, and they're gonna be water, electric, sewer septic tank, or what it is. Something about 3 chimneys. Would you go into that and tell what this money is gonna be used for?
Yes, sir. So this particular grant that we're asking for the match for would do, it's listed, I believe maybe it's in the backup packet, but I will.
Yes, sir. I got it.
So, yes, we need, y'all approved a couple of months ago that we're part of the Museum Docent Program through PRT, and part of the requirements for that was that we have a parking lot and bathroom facilities. And so we are actually focusing on that first and foremost, so that we can continue to get those docent funds so that we can be open to the public. And so we're working on that, the roads to the parking lot. The parking lot is already there. We're utilizing it through the Fair Oak Youth Center. We're transferring that from their lease to ours. It's also the 3 huge chimneys. If you've been out there, it's an 1870s farmhouse. We started with that, but there's 13 other buildings that we're moving to the property. And so part of this is to recreate those chimneys as we could finish the interior. And then also the majority of the grant, I believe it was about $50,000, will go towards moving, reassembling the 2-room school from the 1920s. That's up across from the Cleveland Fire Department in the Madison community. So that is almost finished being taken down now. We disassemble everything, and so that will rebuild it at the 16 acres of the farmstead, so that, and we have the farm buildings and the community buildings, and that way the kids can come see what going to school was like 100 years ago.
Are we sure we want to do that?
I hear you.
So you're a nonprofit organization. Are you funded by anyone other than government?
Yes,
Do you have private donors there?
yes.
I'm gonna vote to approve it. I wait a lot more time ahead of time. Even if you can't apply for the grant till it's closed out, I think we can seek funding from us, say, hey, well, if you apply for this, we will, to give us a heads up. I've been to the community center, and Ms. Swain, she's pointed over this, hey, that's next establishment, but as far as that, I've never been there. And I'd appreciate if you come back later and give us a presentation
Love to.
of what you intend to do, and then if you've had visitors already, I mean, how that's worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
What's your percentage of completion right now, roughly?
Well, to answer that, I'll tell you, other people always ask, at what time are you gonna be finished? And I jokingly say it's a lifetime commitment on my end. So, the way we set it up was to go ahead and open so that people can, part of what we want them to see is how this stuff is built and start having programs. So we're 100% open at least 15 hours a week. We're there 6 days a week, but the docent programs. And so I don't mean to skirt around the question, but so this is the biggest and the first of 13 buildings. And it all tapers down to buildings such as corn cribs, blacksmith shop, all that stuff. So this is the hardest building. So it's one of 13 buildings almost complete.
Need to get Dad out there to help you.
That's right. Absolutely.
He was one of my teachers.
Uh-oh. Sorry.
And I know your brother too.
Uh-oh. Don't tell him I said that.
Being recorded.
Any other comments? All right, all in favor?
That is 5-0.
Thank you.
All right, next we do not have any council committee reports. We have board and commission appointments. Aeronautics Commission, we have, District One has one vacancy on file, and as Mr. Root mentioned during attorney comments, a questionnaire came in today.
So I nominate Albert Brightwell, and if you haven't had a chance to look at it, he's a licensed pilot. He has a commercial rating as a pilot. He has an airline transport rating. He is a certified flight instructor, and it says he has extensive industry management experience.
I'll second.
Do you have to have a second?
We don't have to have a second. Okay. All in favor?
That is 5-0.
Next, we have Agricultural Advisory Board, District Four, no questionnaires on file.
Mr. Chairman, on Board of Zoning Appeals,
Yes, sir.
like to put in Tommy James, please.
Mr. Tommy James. All in favor?
That's 5-0.
The next, I need a motion to enter executive session to, one, discuss a personnel matter with county attorney. Two, receive legal advice and discuss ongoing litigation, King versus Oconee County. And three, discussion regarding an economic development matter, Project Galt.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Good.
session?
You're not on.
Make a motion.
There we go, there we go.
I have a motion come out of executive session.
Make a motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
No actions were taken in executive session. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.